Hi kids, Snippy here. Today I thought I'd talk to you about the difference between a value, i.e. a core value, and a belief, right? So one of the things us coaches often talk about is values and boundaries, right? So boundaries are a little bit more obvious. What do you need to have in place for you to stop people taking too much of you or for you giving too much of yourself? And from a workplace perspective, this might be things like traditional things like what time I leave the office unless, something really important is on, how much of my weekend I spend checking emails, or it could be emotional boundaries within work, like I won't let people talk to me particularly badly, etc., etc. But values are a little bit more difficult and a little bit more complex. And I think it's a term that we throw around a lot without really explaining what they are. So your core values, i.e. your values at your core, are not how you see the world, that's the belief. I've just ruined this for myself. Is what it is you need to be aligned for you to feel successful and contentment. And the problem is with values is we tend to think that there are things like being kind, being respectful, being transparent, but it very rarely is those things. They're community or societal values. There are values that your parents have taught you or that the world has taught you. Actually, your unique set of values are going to be more individual and they may be a little bit more selfish and self-imposed. So, for example, for me, one of my key values is fun. Now, that sounds really silly and really flippant, right? I must have fun. But actually, without it, my happiness and my mental health really plummets. So let's take that in a corporate environment. I was terrible for taking the piss and pissing about and being trivial and flippant when I was in work in corporate. Now, that didn't mean that I didn't take my job seriously. That didn't mean that I didn't take my work seriously, and that didn't mean I didn't work hard. But when I lost the access to fun, when I lost the access to good relationship, and I know a lot of people hate the word, but banter, and just that level of kind of almost mockery, when I removed that, I became really down. I lost my focus because if I didn't have a sense of fun, I couldn't get into it. For alignment, I need to have fun. Another one I have to have for me personally is momentum. I have to feel like I'm building towards something. Now, that might come out in terms of an educational sense. I always need to be learning something. I always need to be better in my skills. A career sense, I need to feel like my career is going somewhere. I need to be going up the ladder. My pay needs to be increasing. My title needs to be improving. Or in a relational sense, relationship all sense, if that's even a word, I have to feel like we're progressing. If we start stagnating and we feel like we're sitting in the same place doing the same things, I get really unhappy. I do not, if anything starts remotely feeling like an old pair of slippers, I mentally check out, right? So these are things that are important to me. To you, it might be something like you feel like you need to have wealth or security, right? And it might be that security covers financial income, how people treat you, knowing that you turn up in the morning. You might need to have a sense of adventure. It might be that actually doing the same thing every day drives you insane. It might be that doing different things every day is all you need. And if you have too much of the same thing, or you don't ever do something different, you go nuts. Or perhaps the idea of doing something different drives you insane. You need the routine and you need the momentum. Right? So we all have these deep core values of how we need to behave and how we need the people around us to behave for us to be content, right? And this shows up in our relationships and this shows up in work. Now, beliefs, opinions, outlook, that is above value. So if we think of our values as in our core, they are our inner being, they are our wiring, and not the ones we've been taught by our parents, be kind, be nice, blah, blah, blah. That's a behaviour, that's a belief. I mean, the core values of what you think is integral for you to be content in your day-to-day life, in your career, in your relationships. These things have to exist for you not to feel like you're going insane and your mental health is struggling, right? When you have those, they then impact your belief system. Now, most people believe that they see the world and what they see inspires their belief system, that they see people treating people this way and it makes them believe this about certain types of people. They see these things happening out there and it makes them have these sort of belief systems about money, about environment, about work, about men, about women, about different races, all these things. But actually it's the opposite. How you feel inside What you believe inside is related to your value is actually how you perceive the world. The world is outside, it's you looking out, it's not it coming in. Okay, so you've got your values and they impact your belief system, and that belief system impacts your outlook. Right? If you do not understand what your values are, what is important to you, what is your drivers, then you can't understand where your belief system's coming from, and then you believe that your outlook is pushed on you rather than is actually yours looking out. And then we have confirmation bias, where we go through life and we collect evidence that backs up our outlook, our belief systems, and then our values. Now, one of the things I do with my clients to make sure that they really understand what their values are, because they're not easy to get to the bottom of, they're quite complex, is I then do the antithesis. So if you're thinking kind of your core values are 5 at most, but usually 3 to 5 values, what is the opposite for that? So say, for example, one of your core values is, let's say momentum, or learning, right? You always have to be bettering yourself. You need to always have something new on the horizon. If there's nothing you're learning, you're getting bored, right? You're bored, you're stagnating, you've had enough. You like to watch YouTubes, you like to read books, you like to talk to people that are in different fields, you like to hear what other people have to say, this sort of thing. Right? And if you don't have them, something feels wrong. Now, if we twist that, what is the antithesis of that? And language is unique to you. Everybody will have their own word for the antithesis of a value. So I don't want to put it in your head what that will be. But an example might be stagnation, right? And then you say, well, what is it about stagnation that you're afraid of? And then people say, I rot. I become inconsequential, I have no worth, I get left behind. So then we start understanding, right, is it a value or is it a fear? Now, it's normal that a fear will back up a value. The opposite of your value will be scary to you. If this is really important for your confidence and your happiness, then it kind of goes without saying that the exact opposite is going to scare you or freak you out. But just because it's a major fear doesn't mean it's a value. So it's worth exploring what your values are, what their antitheses are, and then what that means so that you can understand, is it a value or is it something I'm frightened of not having? Once you understand those things, you can start working on the belief systems, the opinions, and then you can start looking on the outlook, right? So that's why we talk about values, and that's why it comes into play with boundaries as well, because it helps you understand what it is you need in yourself to be content in your day-to-day. And notice that I'm not really saying happy, because happiness is fleeting. Contentment is the aim here, right? You can be content with your lot and have a shit day. It's very hard to have a shit day and be happy. All right, so that is in essence what a core value is. Now, I'm completely making this up. Well, I'm not making it up. I know this stuff, but I'm completely winging this live. So I'm really hoping that this is making sense. But if you have any questions around this or want to understand what your values might be, drop me a line and we can have a chat about it. All right, kids. Well, longer than usual, 8.5 minutes. So better leave it there. Snippy out.